But I had one questions coming from multiple sources, or two questions specifically. One is about the Universal Code Initiative, and maybe that's India based. That's people are seeing it now. And the other thing is about uh, encryption in business end, because there had been certain changes, and it seems there is a huge need of encryption at this moment. It seems. But if there are any questions from any of you, I guess we can talk about them first and then move to these questions.
Did you say encryption?
Yes, I didn't get much detail about it, but I looked at it on the system app, and maybe we should, we'll look at that, what's available, because I'm not much aware about all the encryption that is available in general. So let's see what's available in the system app, because there are certain encryptions which are available by default. So anything else? Okay, so let's first start with Universal Code Initiative. I didn't have much kind of prepared for it, but let me search for it. And so, okay. So what happened is sometime in past, and this is pretty old now, so we might not find much detail about it, but I guess we in Archpoint had a blog about it when it happened. So let me bring that blog again so that people who had these questions can see this. So what the Universal Code Initiative is that Microsoft recommends every partner to write code which is uh, cloud supported. And what it means that you should not have code segments which have uses of .NET components or any other method which is tagged as on-prem, even in the base Microsoft object. Like if you look at the system base app, there are certain objects which have so much, which is tagged as on-prem. That means it will only work on premises at this moment. And the problem starts as a the problem will start for PDEs starting next year, as in there's a cost to it. But then there is another clause on Universal Code Initiative, which is about the base code modified. So if any partner for any reason have modified the base Microsoft application, either the base application, system application, or any other application that is released by Microsoft, then they have to purchase this module, which is called code has not been implemented as extension. Guess where is that module name? And in that case, those customers will start paying $75 per user per year fee to use that modified base Microsoft extension. The other one, which, oh, sorry, thank you. I forgot to share the screen. Okay. Okay. Thank you. So now I guess it's visible. Yes. So if the base app, which is a Microsoft app, which is modified, then customers will have to pay $75 starting 2023 per year. And then in 2024, it increases to $125 and then $250. And Microsoft still need to be announcing what's the price for 2026. And these are calendar years. Now, the other one is pretty interesting because this is for PDEs. So if you have an extension build for your customer, uh, which have, let me find the extension. and then show you where that is. So if you have extensions for your customer, then make sure that either on the app.json there is no target property set. And if it is set, because this is a confusion, I guess, in the community, it's always set to cloud. If this property is set to on-prem or yeah, on-prem, then those extensions will fall into the preview of Universal Code Initiative. And if there is an extension in your customer environment where the setting of target is set to on-prem, you may you will not have to pay this year, but you will have to purchase these modules from Microsoft, as in assign those modules in your customer license. Once you do that, um, what happens is if you don't do this and let's say implement or upgrade a customer to Business Central, I guess started with BC20. As soon as users try to access Business Central, they cannot move forward with it because there is an error that these apps are non-universal compliance and they will have to buy these modules from Microsoft. Now, as I said, this remains zero at this moment for 2023, but starting next year, customers will have to pay for it.
So simply with that JSON property set to on-prem, it triggers that policy?
Yes, it triggers that check. So the check happens when users try to log into environment, and that's where it checks what kind of extensions you have. And I was finding for this. So this is, I guess, right now happening in India. So this is becoming in news in India, where when a user tries to log in, they get a message like this. Now I saw it when 2022 December 8th. This was BC 20 at that time, I guess. And we end up with this error message on one of our demo environment. But if you look at the error message, it says that the following apps does not meet the universal code requirement, and the app names are or app name is on-prem permission North America by Microsoft. I don't work for Indian customers, so I have no clue. But I've heard from some calls, from some tweets here and there, that customers, partners are seeing similar kind of issue when they are implementing or upgrading customers. If you see app names here, which are from Microsoft, then create a ticket with Microsoft. And I thought that they fixed it in the cumulative updates, where the licenses are excluding apps built by Microsoft for Universal Code Initiative. But if they haven't, then you can just reach out to Microsoft and they'll fix the issue for that region, like India or any other place. If there is an app which is from an ISV, then reach out to ISV. Tell them they'll have to fix it. Otherwise, customer will have to pay it. So this is between customer and ISV. If it is a PTE built by you for your customer, then I was saying, just check the property target. And if the target is set on-prem, and it can be set unknowingly, because I was talking to some partner last year or a developer last year, and they thought that they should set to target on-prem if their customer is going or upgrading or implementing in an on-prem environment. So there are different assumptions based on different developers that you talk to. So this property does not tell you that you this extension will only be deployable on-prem. The idea of this property is to say that is your app that you're building is cloud optimized or not. If it is not, then you will be forced to set on-prem. So if you have customers where this is set, the first thing I would recommend is remove this property because the default value for this is cloud. And if after removing this property, nothing breaks, then you're good. Just you have to remove this property. If there are problems after removing this, you will see them here, like file management, uh, in the, what is that area where you do bank file imports and all, export import. What is that area called? Mm, ACH, because so many functions in that area are also tagged as on-prem. And if you are trying to kind of modify the behavior of those functions, you will end up doing uh, have to set this to on-prem. So like take this example. This is one of the classic example that you'll see with so many customers being used or partner using it. Anything, any functions that you're using where there is a target on-prem, that forces you to change that property to target on-prem. If you are using any other function from this code unit, which is not scoped as on-prem, like this one, this is SaaS compatible, but this is not. And there are so many like this, not just in this code unit, but throughout the system. So as soon as you remove that property from your app.json, if you start seeing error, you will have to find or rethink your logic to write that code in a way that it is cloud supported. And why it becomes important? Because for the PDEs also, this cost is going to increase year by year per user per year. So it is not one time fee that you can pay for this and move away from this. It is a incremental fees that you'll have to pay. So keep that in mind. And the idea is, as far as very clearly stated by Microsoft, the idea is not to force people to SaaS. The idea is to not to partners are not writing code which will not work in future, because at the end the utopia from Microsoft is to reach a place where there are no on-prem functions, even in the base app and the system apps. So, which means that all these functions which have scope on-prem will be removed in future. And any partner who's utilizing this by changing the target property, the customers will have to pay again when those functions be removed. So why not partners start writing code which will be, which will live a longer life than the code which is a quick fix by doing on-prem stuff. Any questions on it before we move from it? Again, three things. If you see this, and if there is only Microsoft app, request to Microsoft, and they'll fix that license issue about their extensions, and you can then get an updated license. If there are ISV app listed, reach out to ISV partner. If these are your apps, then the first thing that you're going to do is remove the target on-prem property from your app.json and then see what breaks and fix that with alignment to the Universal Code Initiative. And the cost will start increasing. And even if there is zero cost for 2023, you will have to buy these module, which is code is not cloud optimized. I guess that's what the module is called. And based on the customers who have this module from next year, they'll have to pay this fee for PDEs. Okay. So the other question that I have, and let me find where I was reading about it, so that we all can read about it together. And if you haven't subscribed to this GitHub repo, I would highly encourage to do that. So this is Microsoft repo, and I should actually go here, where all the open source code from Microsoft for Business Central is available, which is the whole app more or less at this point. And this kind of keeps updating as Microsoft start changing stuff. So I think we all should have it. And there are ways that you can also contribute to this app. And if your contributions are accepted, then they become part of the Microsoft app going forward, if you're interested in that. Inside this, let's go to module and let's look at the system app. Your system app is something which have cool features built in a way where they are splitted into kind of smaller apps rather than adding everything onto the base app. Microsoft is slowly picking out the common features from the old base app or object set and then kind of breaking them down into smaller logical pieces in the system app. So somebody had a question about, and you can read about it, and if something sounds interesting, let me know. We can talk about it in the future sessions. But today we are going to talk about cryptography management. Now, this has been moved from the base app for a while ago now, but go into history of it. Let's see when it was created. Yeah, this has been in 2021. They started moving it out, and I guess now they keep on updating this app as things are moving. So what's added into the next latest releases? Signed XML, and there are some questions around it which I have no clue. So if you guys know about it, that'll be great for me also to understand it. So system cryptography, and if you have on-prem or Docker environment, you always get the source code in your local machine, inside the product DVD or inside the Docker folder. But it's good to be here because then you can read the whole README because Microsoft surely spends good amount of time writing these READMEs, which are pretty long. Start reading it, which defines each and every method in this module. And that tells you how much Microsoft is working on the documentation so that you can keep your eye on how things are changing. So this app for cryptography management is a helper function for encryption and hashing. And by default, encryption is available on online version, but you can turn it off if required. But other than the base Microsoft encryption on all the password fields and all, you can use this module to encrypt plain text into encrypted value or decrypt a encrypted text into the plain text. And we'll see that how that can be done. And then there are advanced encryption using Rendell management. This is an advanced encryption with AES algorithm, which kind of replaces the traditional old style or an advanced version of encryption. So that is also supported by Microsoft in here. And then these all are the methods that you can read from. So I know we don't like to read a lot. So let's get into our VS Code and let's try to build a simple extension. Okay, let me go here. Let me do a ALO. Okay, okay. And then let me find my sandbox name. Not wrong. Sandbox demo. Let me make this big. Okay. So once it's download the symbol, let's try to do some encryption on the data. And then if there are questions or ideas on what else we can try, because there is a lot in that system app for encryption and decryption. So we surely can try that. Okay, so that's done. Let's just change this hello world and let's remove this and let's create a page. Okay, okay, let me know if it is still not visible. I can zoom this in if needed. is correct. Okay. So now let's assume that we have a text box to kind of input and output values. So let's minimize this and let's create fields for text. Let's add them in here. And let's copy this also and paste it here as output. Okay. So we'll enter our text input. Based on an action, it will run the encryption and then return us the output that we can then kind of share. So let's create an action. Okay. And let's call this encrypt data. Okay. In that, let's try to search for encrypt something or not this. Oh, cryptography. That's what we were looking for. Cryptography management. Oh, and then this Rendell is also there. We'll look at it in a while. Let's see the cryptography management and what functions are available there. So the first one that we see is decrypt, which we are not doing right now. There is an encrypt which seems to be marked for removal. Okay. Okay. Encrypt method is marked for removal and it is supposed to input a string, but this is going to be removed. But it seems, let's go in, there should be a replacement and it says that, oh, it says first it needs an input. So let's do an input and then we'll see what happened. Method encrypt is marked for removal and it is replaced with encrypt text. Now this is marked for removal in 21. So that means in version 23, which is the next release, it will be removed. So let's change our call to encrypt text. Okay. Parameter for encrypt text are, okay, it takes an input string and it encrypts it and then returns the text. So our encrypt value that we want to encrypt is input and the value that we'll get out of it is our output value. So this action should actually encrypt the data that we are sending or that you are writing over there, and then the output should encrypt it, show us the encryption. Okay, let's try to publish this here and come on to the central. Okay, it should not take that much time. Okay, I got here. It's getting published. Let's see then what because there are different styles of encryption that you can do, and then what kind of output you get is important. So let's use a name here. Zoom this in. So we have an input value and let's try to encrypt this. Okay, this becomes the encrypted value for BC open discussion. Okay, let's copy this and paste it in here. That seems a pretty big value. This is this supposed to be case sensitive? What happens if I change the C in BC open discussions to be capitals or caps on? Oh, it seems it completely changed it when I changed the caption of my value. Now, what algorithm it uses? Let's see. Go back to VS Code and let's if we can see it. So it does a encrypt, okay, and then oh, it does a system encrypt of it where there is no function. So somehow Business Central have a base method which I didn't knew, which is system.encrypt. What is system.encrypt? Oh, sorry, dot encrypt. Anybody used encrypt in the past? The input string will be encrypted. The encryptor cannot exceed. Okay, so there's a limit of 250 plain character, 215 plain character. If the input string includes special character, the length is even more reduced. Okay, but what kind of encryption it is doing? Oh, so it's using the standard Microsoft encryption, which is defined in the system, which is, let me open Business Central, and I guess it's happening because I'm trying to do it on Business Central SaaS. It's using the encryption management. There was a page, encryption management. Oh, it's enabled. So right now it's using the standard Microsoft data encryption, which already have a key, which already said. But what if I don't want to use it? Let's go back into our VS Code to see are there any other methods that we can use. So here we are on the cryptography management. Let's look at the method. Encrypt, we saw that it's disabled. Encrypt text, it does the same thing. I'm pretty sure the decrypt will kind of convert it based on the standard Microsoft system decrypt method. This is again encryption enable possible. These all are checks, I guess, from Microsoft for Microsoft encryption. Enable encryption on-prem, disable encryption, and some events. Generate hash. Okay, this sounds interesting. Generate a hash from a string based on the provided hash algorithm. So you need to give an input text, the hash algorithm type, and somebody can help me if they know this. What are these different algorithm types? MD5, SH1, 256, and 512. I have no clue. Let's give it a try. What happens with this? Mm, Generate hash. I'll just place it here. We'll test it out. What else was there? Generate hash. And this time it takes one additional parameter key that need to be used in the algorithm. And then algorithm have completely changed in this case. HMA CMD5, CSH1. Okay, that's a long value. I have no clue about these algorithms, guys. If you know it, let me know. There's one more overload, which takes the stream into picture and have the similar kind of options. I hope there is one more. This is a base 64 one. Okay. Because this returns a base 64 hash value, whereas these two on the above just returns the hash value of it. And as usual, there is a get hash and base 64 string. Generates a base 64 encoded hash from a string based on the provided hash algorithm. Okay, with the key, and that is lot, I guess. I can't keep going on it. But if you have needs around it, I guess you can utilize this code unit. This should have all your encryption need. We'll just test out where it doesn't use the Microsoft method. So let's do a generate hash, and generate hash needs an input string and a hash algorithm. Now hash algorithm type is, oh, it's not enum. So let me go back to, so this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. Let's take 3. Let's see what happens. An option. So it's 3. And let's run a VS Code and let it run. Anybody have seen what kind of these different algorithms are while this is running?
I've experienced them in encryption in SFTP setup for, the various encryptions for the public private key values.
Mhm.
And they're just industry standards. And the numbers represent the bits and the complexity of, the values. The higher the bit is, I think the highest value is, it ensures like zero chance of duplicity in the output. So it's just more secure the higher the bit count is.
Okay.
There's it's easily Googleable to describe it.
Okay, so this gives us the hash value for it. And let's try the same exercise here. If we change this to the caps on, what happens with it? Oh, it completely changed the hash again. Okay. Now, in this case, when we were using the hash one, this method, generate hash, there was no limit on the input string. So I can actually pass a long text if needed, and then whatever your customer requirements are based on, as John was saying, whatever the algorithm type they are using, you can surely use. And these are the valid options from Microsoft at this moment. And let's see if there is a how Microsoft is implementing it. And they have a .NET behind the scene, which is doing it. So I'm pretty sure you can't just extend it because it's an on a enum, oh sorry, option, not the enum. So you can't extend it. So if the needs are these algorithm types or these algorithm types, then I guess you can utilize the base Microsoft cryptography management code unit. And let's try this. If we give a big value to it, mm, let's do this multi-line as true and try to publish this. Okay, so now I can actually do multi-line text. Okay, I can encrypt this, and this will again convert into that hash, whatever the text is. But is it correct? Let's try to decrypt it. I'll save this value. Let's add uh, one more group into it if needed. This is encrypt, and we'll add one more. decrypt. Let's do input one and output one. Okay, let's add one more action here. Get that. Sorry, the code unit should be, should confuse myself and you guys. Decrypt, and decrypt needed only the hash. So how does the decrypt will work? Okay, let's try giving this input one. That should pass to output one. Okay, let's see what happens now. We have this value save, so I'll just copy this again, and let's see what happens on the new tab. But I'm not using any algorithm in this case. In the earlier case, I did, so it should fail, I hope. And it failed, obviously. So we are using the generate hash, which generates the hash, but how you decrypt the hash? Hmm, okay, hash is generate, only generates hash. That's weird. You need to pass the hash in that case. But how somebody decrypts it? Hmm, that's weird. Let's try using the other one, which is the Rendell one. So the Rendell one, there's one more code unit for this. So let's try switching to that. Rendell cryptography. Let's me paste it here also in the decrypt. See what happens. There should be some methods for this, for encrypt. But I hope this does not use the system one. First, let's check that. Cryptography implementation with this. No, this is using the whole .NET construct to convert it and to decrypt it. So also there is a decryption. Okay. So I can do this, and this uses how many how many parameters? Use the plain text and gives you the encrypted data. And let's use the same decrypt input one. In this case, encrypt. This is just a decrypt of Render. Okay, and then let's do the input here. This should generate the input to an encrypted way, and then this should decrypt it. So let's test this out. Okay, Come on, BC. Okay. So let's use the multi-line text again to see what happens. Let's try to encrypt this, and this converts to a string, which should look like similar to the past one. Not similar to past one, but oh, it's a pretty smaller string than all the previous options that you have tried. Let's try to decrypt this and see what happens. Oh, did I use the wrong? Oh, sorry. Sorry, guys. I should have done one. In this case, it should be multiplied. You should never copy paste things. Okay. And I have the text saved. So let me just directly try to decrypt that. See what happens. Copy that, put it here, and then decrypt it. Starting is invalid, cannot be removed. Okay. Let me type in again. Let's do encrypt. Let's copy this value here. Okay. System IO read to end failed with the message starting is invalid. Hmm. Can I not use the special characters into it? Maybe. Encrypt it again. Let's copy this, paste it here, and let's try to decrypt. Oh no. Let's try one simple line. Copy, paste. This is call to system IO reader read to end failed with the message. Oh, maybe I'm copying something incorrectly. Let me change the logic to put it from output to output one directly. Okay, let me disable this. Input one, as you get removed. Whatever the input one is, it takes the input from output, previous output. Okay, let's encrypt. It did generate this, and now let's try to decrypt this. No, it did not like this. And why is that? Is the space a concern? No. And what I'm doing here is with the Rendell, I'm doing the encrypt of input text, which is correct, and then decrypting whatever is coming in the output. That should work. Can anyone see a obvious error that I'm doing somewhere? Decrypt
I wonder if the encryption, when it creates that encrypted output, if it's just in the scope of that call, so that it doesn't persist. Is there any other
Again,
output? Is there any other output from the encryption besides
no
the
crypt
encryption?
text and then the plain text. Get encryption data, get legal size values is valid size, set encryption data,
Set
set
padding
padding
mode.
mode, new padding mode class, represent the padding mode in the symmetric algorithm, none. Hmm.
What's the
Does this
default?
use, let's see what this method is doing. It's creating the decryptor and then it's read to end of the file, delete the character from end to file if this is greater than one character. Hmm, interesting. Let's debug this to see where it is kind of failing. Let me use my name. Okay, this time it have reached here. Okay, thing on the debugger, which makes sense. Let me do a multi-line. Mm, cannot be removed. Read to end is failing. Hmm. Why is that? Let me see that again. Okay. We have the input text. We have the output text. And then we just added an output one. When we encrypt, we put it into the output, whatever it is, and then we put it in output one when we decrypt it from the value that is in the output. And all this is text. Hmm.
Try explicitly setting the padding. I don't know what it's defaulting to, but
Yeah, let's see. So it says it's a padding mode, and the padding mode is the valid values are none and these. Okay, so let's see.
or
Let's do an
or maybe like do a message to see what the padding is before you encrypt it, and when you're trying to decrypt it to see if it Maybe it's defaulting to something different each time.
Hmm. Before encrypt, I don't think that there is a method, but let's see. There's no get padding. No, there's no get padding. So let's do a set padding both the places. Set padding mode. To the text. Okay, so the text is none. Let's try none first. Let's see what happens. Because I guess otherwise I'll have to read how that works. I guess I've done that. This time it doesn't even support the input. Close failed with the message the input data is not a complete block.
Maybe none padding doesn't allow spaces.
Let's try that. No, it is not none for sure. What is the other options? Linux or ISO? It's as easy as I thought. I guess the only easy one is the encrypt text method from the cryptography, which is okay. Padding is invalid and cannot be removed. Hmm. So it is not the padding for sure. Mhm. I cannot do a decrypt of the output. Hmm. Just trying it somewhere. Let me just copy that once. The whole sample. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. I was testing this today. One of my examples. So let me just find that code where that is and try to copy that in. Right. Okay. So here what I did is I have an input character, an output value, and then the decrypted text. The actions that I have is with the Rendell cryptography encrypt, which uses the encrypt from the input, and then the decrypt, which decrypts, puts into decrypt whatever is in the output. And same for the cryptography encrypt text, and then there is a decrypt also there. Let's try this one because I tested this today morning. It seems to be working. I don't know where I changed something. Okay, so here you are. Let's try this. Let's do a encrypt, which changes it to this. And let's try to decrypt this, which changes it back to this. So what I was missing, I'll have to check that. Cryptography encrypt, which gives you a long string, which we saw earlier for the same text. and then I can decrypt this. Have to, have to remove this. Decrypt this with the same value. What if we do multi-line with some special characters? Will this encrypt? Yes, it does. Will this decrypt? Yes, it does. So now tell me what I was doing wrong earlier. So I had this input text. It was there, I guess. It was just in the different group, the decrypt. That's it. And it was called output one. So that's it. The actions are same to encrypt and to decrypt. And same for crypto to encrypt, put it into output, and then decrypt, put it into the decrypt. I'll have to test that example again, which I was trying earlier, and I'll do that. But then there are two things that we understand, I guess, when we use the cryptography management code unit that uses the system by default built-in encryption methods, which may or may not work on-prem if you don't have the key installed or imported in your business central environment. Whereas, so these two are in that situation if a customer is already using the encryption in business central by default, then you can utilize the cryptography management to encrypt and decrypt based on the same encryption setup which exists in business central. But if a customer is not using the built-in encryption and they want uh, advanced encryption like Rendell, then you can use the code unit of Rendell. What is that? Rendell cryptography, which then gives you access to encryption and decryption. And I'm pretty sure that there will be other methods. Let's quickly check at that. Get encryption data. That's weird, but okay. Let's come up. So you can initialize the provider. That's okay. You can again with the key initialize the provider. Init with the key. Okay. Set block size. Represent the block size in bits of the cryptography operation, and then set shipper mode. ECB. And all these terms are foreign to me, to be very fair. Set padding mode. Hmm. Should we try with the padding mode now? Let's give it a try. ISO. Let's test it here on the random one. Okay, use this and same we use here. Publish this. Okay, one. This time we have the padding set. That's converted. This time the value looks a little bit longer. And I decrypt it. It does convert it. What if I use different just to verify? Will it fail? Okay. So I encrypt with ISO, not encrypted. I'm trying to decrypt with none. And there is an error. Parts failed, requested value none was not found. So somehow this text is using the padding of none, oh sorry, of ISO when it is getting converted like this. And then during decryption, if you use a different one, then this value will not translate. So let me copy this value so that we can keep it somewhere. And then we'll see what if we change it. Sorry, not the value, but if we change the padding back in the center. Okay, let's set it to the same one. We have this value. Let's copy this. So we'll directly paste into output this time and see what happens to the value that's returned. Okay, let's paste it. Let's do a decrypt. No, padding is invalid or cannot be removed. Okay, let me take the same text from here. Let's see what happens this time. What if I do this, remove this? I can't copy and paste these values. That's weird. Read, paste, decrypt. Oh, it does. And is the value same as in our text box? Oh, sorry, in our notepad? Oh, there's a different value this time. The values are changed when you run this every time. Let me use the same text again and see is the value same or not. Let me cut it from here. Delete, can encrypt. And let's see the value of this. Oh, no, the value changes every time. It is same somewhere till here, but this part have completely changed between two calls. That doesn't make any sense.
Do both decryption keys result with the same output?
Sorry? Yeah, these are the same encryption paddings right now.
So in other words, to decrypt that value, you can use two different decryption keys. Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're proving?
No, what I'm proving here is every time I encrypt it, it generates a unique combination which makes no sense. If I transfer this data, it'll be invalid at the other end. So if I try, let's try this one more time. What I'm trying to say. So this is the value that's stored right now with, or let's copy this value. All these three texts represent the same value in text, which
So
is this.
what if you tried decrypting using all three of those keys?
I
Would
doubt it'll work.
I doubt it'll work too, but I'm curious. I mean, maybe it's a feature, not a bug.
Oh, it does. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Hmm. It does. Hmm. Can I manually change it? See what happens? I doubt this time for sure. But let's give it a try. No, it does not. Okay. So one thing which is a little bit interesting that every time you try to generate a text, encrypted text for a value, it generates a unique combination of it. And let's see one more thing because this is crypto encrypt. Let me see that what happens. I doubt that this changes, but let's see. This is the standard crypto encrypt. Okay. Let me try to decrypt this. will convert there. But let's remove this. Let's try to do a encrypt of crypto again. And it also generated a new pattern. Hmm. So every time you use an encryption, it converts it into a unique encrypted text or encrypted string, more or less.
So see if those two keys result in the proper output.
Now I'm kind of sure. I was in doubt earlier. Let's see.
I'm going to guess they don't this time.
Okay,
Oh,
this one has the same output as the other one. Voila. It does
huh.
represent the same item again.
It almost seems like a security problem. Because
No, but
if you encrypted your entire credit card database, for instance, and then you found a breach where somebody hacked in and got your keys, you can't re-encrypt everything. It's worthless, right?
you can in yes, you but the way it'll work is once I encrypt all my credit card data, I'll have this data or this encrypted string available, which I can
Right.
use anytime to decrypt. And I know that I encrypted it and what is the state of data at that point. If somebody made a change and encrypted it, so let's say if I take this string, or I guess I have this, and say, oh no, I'll play with this data and I'll change it to PST in a small change. Now, when I encrypt this, it'll give me a again unique string. Now, my stand of data when I encrypted it personally was, let's say, this. And I'll always rely on this data. If somebody sends me this data, then, ah, that's weird. Hmm. Because how I generate an authenticity of the data have not been changed because my encryption value is always changing. If I decrypt this one, it gives me IST. And when I decrypt this one, it gives me PST. Hmm. I'll have to read about it, to be very
I wonder,
frank. I guess
I wonder if there's something in there that allows you to disconnect a key from a value. Was there a function on the encryption to kind of wipe out all past keys or something like that?
there is a init.
Like maybe the cipher mode is by default allows
Cipher
that.
mode in this method. Maybe I'll have to read more about this Randall method or encryption to see what happens. But this
Yeah,
is
because
interesting that they have baked in so much into the product right now. Go ahead, you were saying
it
something, John.
almost seems like perhaps not the best practice to be able to just every time you encrypt it, you still are able to use the previous encrypted key. Doesn't seem completely 100% safe.
Yeah, that's all right. Why I'm confused a little bit.
Like
Why
I
this
said,
is behaving that.
if a hacker got a hold of all the encrypted keys for your credit cards, even if you re-encrypt everything, it doesn't
get an
protect it
experiment.
from.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like having your key stole from your car. Somebody steals your key from your car. They can get into your car even if you change the locks.
Yes, I'll have to search or read more about it maybe. Hmm. But this is interesting. Yeah, this is baked in Business Central. I'll surely read about it and we'll surely talk about it in future if there's nothing else. But in the meantime, before we leave, are there any questions, any suggestions for the future meetings? I'll be happy to hear from you guys. Hey Fauzan, Jignesh, anything that you
Hi,
guys can
Saurabh.
think of? Amen.
No, thank you.
Not from man.
Yeah, no, I'll try to read this about myself and hopefully share something that I found.
Sure, I'm interested in it now because it's giving me a little bit confusion. I'm not kind of agree with it at
Yeah,
this moment. So let's do some readings and then we'll play with it because sometime, once in a while you hear about surely about a encryption thing from your customer. And that's where I guess it's important to know about all this.
yeah. I had a senior who was working on the encryption part a few months later, so maybe he probably had found it or something. So I'll share what he got.
Okay. Okay. Thank you all. So then I'll
Thank
see you
you.
next week. If you guys have any thoughts, just shoot me an email or ping me somewhere on social media and we'll talk about it.
Perfect.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Saurav.
Thank you guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.